Okay? Now, before I start going over G, I just want to remind everybody that all the concepts you learned in term 1 on equations, you need them now. Okay? So here, the question says, calculate how long. Can you stop talking? Can you move from the when sit to the okay? Calculate how long it would take for an investment of 9,000 rand to double if the simple interest, now this is important, if the simple interest okay, so the question says, calculate how long it would take for an investment of 9,000 rand to double if the simple interest rate is 11% per annum. All right? Now, it's important for you to be aware that the question is asking for time. That's N. Okay? And so, you write the information that you are given. What's A? Okay? So, A here is twice 9,000, which will be what? 18,000. So the future value is 18,000. Then the amount which was invested is 9,000. And then N, we don't know. Our interest rate is 11%, which is 0.11 as a decimal. Okay? Now, it's important for you to know which formula to use. So based on this question here, we have got those words, simple interest. That indicates that we are supposed to use the simple interest formula. So, write the formula first. When you are answering questions on finance, the first thing that you must do is to write your formula first. Okay? Sometimes the formula is given a mark. So write your formula first. Okay? Then the next thing, you substitute correctly. That's why I listed the given information here. I listed the given information there. Then you substitute. Normally there is a mark for substituting correctly into the correct formula. Okay? If you just write the answer, you lose a mark for the formula, you lose a mark for substitution. Okay? So, you substitute here 18,000. And then P is 9,000. 1 plus I, that's 0.11, times N, which in this case, we don't know what N is. We want to calculate N. Okay? Now, to get on here, obviously we have to divide both sides by 9,000 first. Okay, remember, our unknown variable is N. Because of this 9,000 here, we have to divide both sides by 9,000. So we divide 18,000 by 9,000. And this will be equal to 1 plus 0.11 N. Okay? Remember, 0.11 times N will give you 0.11 N. Then, to divide here, you get a 2. That will be equal to 1 plus 0.11 N. Okay? I'm just using the basics of equations. Okay? Which you were taught last year in grade 9 and term 1 this year. Then you check the 1 to the left, you get 1 equal to 0.11 N. Then you divide both sides by 0.11. Okay? So this will give us N is 9, what? 9,09 years. They're supposed to show you working out. Okay? And you need to show how you are simplifying every stage. This answer here is only 1 mark. Okay? A question like this might have 3 marks. So if you just write the answer, you get 1 out of 3. In my case, it would be better to get an incorrect answer, but the working out being correct, because you get 2 out of 3. Okay? Following, I'm sure you can see what I'm doing. I used knowledge of equations. Remember, I told you that this equation here, it's a linear equation. It's a linear equation. Okay? It's a linear equation. It shouldn't be a challenge to work with that equation. If you solve it correctly, you can then be able to simplify and move on. Alright, so this was the solution to G. Then I also give you a question on hire purchase. Now, it's very important for you to know that hire purchase is just a short-term loan. Okay? Normally, the household appliances we use at home, like fridges, TVs, microwaves, and so on, they are bought on hire purchase. Okay? Now, hire purchase uses simple interest, which means interest is only calculated on the amount of the goods once only. But then you have to pay it over a specific period of time. It can be 2 years, which is very common. It can be 3 years. But the longer it is, the more interest you pay. So it's always wise to shorten the time period to pay off whatever item you would have bought on hire purchase. So if you're going to pay for an item for 4 years, 5 years, you pay more interest than someone who pays it off over a year or 2. Okay, so hire purchase is just a short-term loan, and it's normally on simple what? Interest. So whenever you see a question on hire purchase, you are supposed to use the simple interest formula. Okay, so let's write here. Use simple interest formula. In all situations where you are talking about hire purchase, you must use the simple interest formula. Okay, so you can copy down this paragraph during your own time. You can carry on. Because our lesson is not a very long lesson. So just leave the space of about maybe half a page where you can copy this down. I need to move on to the question. Okay. So all hire purchase questions, they involve simple interest. Okay. Never use the compound interest formula for hire purchases. Unless maybe specified, but sometimes it won't be specified. You are expected to know that hire purchase problems involve simple interest. So we have got a question here which I asked you to do. It says, Patricia wants to buy a furniture suite for 38,000 rand. She decides to take out the hire purchase loan involving equal monthly payments over 5 years, which is quite a long time to pay off for buying furniture. The deposit is 20%. So it means she has to pay 20% of the cash price first. Then the remainder she has to borrow, and then she has to be charged interest. Okay? So the next part says the deposit is 20%, and the simple interest rate charged per annum is 15%. So the first question says, calculate how much must be paid each month. Now, before we start doing that question, let me put it there. The first thing, we need to know how much money did she borrow. Okay? Because she paid a deposit of 20% of the cash price, which means she did not borrow the full 38,000. She borrowed 80% of the 80,000 of the 38,000. Okay? So for B1, let's say amount borrowed. Before we go anywhere, we need to know how much money did she borrow. Okay? The amount borrowed is going to be 80% times 38,000. Because she paid 20%, which means she borrowed 80% of it, 38,000. Or you can calculate 20% of 38,000, then you subtract that from 38,000. But I'm just doing it one way. So I'll calculate 80% of the 38,000. What answer do you get? Huh? 30,000 what? 30,400. So she borrowed 30,400, which means the other 7,400 she paid cash as a deposit. Do you know the advantage of paying a deposit? What's the advantage? Okay, to secure it how now? Huh? Not really.
So they take away from your interest that you would have paid if you didn't have the.
Yes, it reduces the interest. Pay a deposit, it reduces the what? The interest. You see me when I bought my car, I paid a deposit. Okay? Then the remainder I borrowed from the bank. If I had borrowed 100%, then the interest which I was going to pay was going to end up being more. So if you pay a deposit, you reduce the cost of borrowing. You pay less in terms of interest. So when you hear maybe there's an advert on TV saying zero deposit, you start paying in 6 months' time, and so on, that's not a good thing. Someone will say, okay, I don't need to pay a deposit, and they are saying I can start paying in 6 months' time, I don't have money now, let me take the item. You are not wise to do that. Any borrowing has got a cost. If you borrow, you don't pay a deposit. Also, you delay making your first repayment, you increase the interest. So it's an advantage for the lender. The lender will make more money from you. Okay? Is there anyone, someone was raising their hand, wanted to say something? Huh? I'll tell you at the end of the lesson. Okay, make me laugh. Okay, so this person borrowed 30,400. Now, this 30,400, that's the P now. So when we use the simple interest formula, that 30,400 is now the what? The P. That's the amount that the person borrowed from the bank. Okay? So this will be equal to 30,400 times 1 plus. Now your interest is 15%, there's a decimal that's 0.15 times n, in this case is 5 years. Okay? So what's the total amount that the person has to pay? What's the value of A here? What? 53,200. Are you all getting that?
Yes.
Huh? So it means including interest, the person will pay in total at the end of the 5 years 53,200. This amount, remember, it excludes the deposit. So if you add the deposit to it, you find that the person will pay close to 60,000. Actually, it will be just over 60,000 in total. Okay? So, how much must you pay each month? Then we need to divide this amount here by the total number of months in 5 years. How many months are in 5 years? 60. So you say monthly payment. So the monthly payment will be equal to 53,200 divided by the total number of months in 5 years, which will be 60. So how much is she going to pay per month for 5 years? Yes?
886 and then 67 cents.
886.
886.
Okay, are you all getting the same answer?
Yes.
886 and how many cents?
67.
67 cents. Okay, so every month, this person has to make sure that in her bank account, she has got 886 rand and 67 cents. Okay, so that's number one. So I've answered that. I'm sure you can see that it's quite long, it involves quite a lot of aspects. So a question like this may be 5 marks or 6. Okay, then the next question now says the amount of interest paid. How much interest did she pay? Okay? Now, if you want to calculate the amount of interest paid here, remember, we have got the deposit. Okay? The deposit itself. Okay? Which was paid initially. Then we have got 53,000, which also has to be what? To be paid. So how much interest did the person pay? Now, the interest, okay, so we say B2. The interest is always equal to the value of A minus the amount borrowed. Okay? Remember, how much was borrowed? It's this amount here. This is the amount which she borrowed. She borrowed this. How much interest accumulated because of borrowing that? Okay, we subtract that amount there, which is our P, from this 53,200. Are you following that? So we subtract this 30,400 from 53,200. Are you following that? So always your interest is equal to A minus what? Minus P. So this will be equal to 53,200 minus 30,400. How much is that? 22,800. So this is the interest that this person paid because of borrowing 30,400. So all this amount of money, it goes normally to the bank. Okay, it goes to the bank. That's how banks make lots of money. Okay. All right. Then the third one, it says the actual amount paid for the furniture suite. Now, the actual amount the person paid includes the deposit. Okay? So in total, actual amount will be equal to the deposit plus, it will be the deposit plus the value of A, which, okay, you can call it the future value if you want. Let's call it the accumulated amount. Okay, so this will be equal to. Now, if you look at it, if you subtract 30,400 from 38,000, you get 7,600. Am I right? So, the total amount paid will be 7,600 plus the 53,200. Okay, so in total, this will give us 60,000. Sorry, 60,000, right? And 800,000. Sorry, and 800 rand. So that's the total amount that the person will eventually pay. Instead of paying 38,000, if she had cash, over 5 years she will pay in total 60,800 to have that furniture. Okay. Right, any question? Any question? Are you following? Huh? Yes.